This is Jake from Overgrow, and you're listening to my chapter of As the Story Grows.
Welcome to the next chapter of As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. This week, we welcome Overgrow frontman Jake Ciccotelli to the podcast. I hope I didn't botch your last name too badly, Jake. Overgrow has a new EP coming out on December 4th via Common Ground Collective called Hear Your Voice Again. This was a super fun conversation about songwriting and creativity in the time of COVID. We chat about Jake's early hardcore influences, spending his early 20s touring with Everyone Leaves, and Overgrow's musical evolution. This was one of my favorite recent chats, and breaking through the algorithm seems to get harder every day. If you enjoy this chat, please share it with your friends. It's the best way to spread the word and talk about something you enjoy, and that's what social media is for anyway, yeah? Getting to share what we love. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's conversation as much as I did with Jake from Overgrow.
I spend my days wasting away, trapped inside my mind. I build my cage. There's something in the way you say it'll be okay. If only I could let it, everything would change. 'Cause my head and my heart want different things.
Yeah, I'm stoked. This is the first interview for this this release, so that's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, Brittany's been awesome about hooking me up with all the exciting artists happening over there at Common Ground, so
Hell yeah.
excited to chat.
They've had a stupid busy 2020. Like, they've signed so many bands. I feel like the roster like doubled. I can't keep up. I feel like there's bands on the label that I just don't know at all, and that I feel like I've been touring for like, in a band that's active for like 6 or 7 years, and it's just hearing new names is always weird now.
Yeah. So where are you located, man?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah. Project may be seeing a bit of a relocation soon, but as of right now, it's Columbus, Ohio. So
Gotcha. Where's that relocation taking you?
So my girlfriend lives outside of outside of Chicago, and since I'm the only, it was one of those situations where like everything in life was kind of like pushing me towards Chicago. So as soon as the pandemic's over and it makes sense to move, I'll be out there. But until then, I'm hanging out here. Nothing wrong with Columbus at all.
Yeah, my brother. I guess it's been a few years, but he lives in Dayton now. So.
Oh, hey, that's not that far.
Yeah,
it's like an hour and a half, depending on where we're at.
Yeah. What was growing up like for you?
I mean, it was weird. My parents divorced when I was fairly young, and there was a lot of back and forth through like different parts of Ohio. I mean, not Ohio, but of like the greater Columbus area.
Yeah.
Moved a few times. It was, but like, I mean, more or less, I mean, I feel like I had a pretty normal, normal time growing up. Definitely, being like, when I got into music, like really got into music, it was like, more like hardcore and stuff like that. So I, growing up in Westerville, which is the suburb that I have kind of like stayed in for the most part. It's like where like Attack Attack's from and all like like the more like scene part of that world of like the more metalcore world was, and like listening to like So it was weird because like you would think that like those kids would be really accepting of the like you listen to hardcore, but like there was like no one at my school in middle school that did. But like I don't know, high school was definitely a lot better. I feel like it's pretty normal for
Yeah. What were the bands that got you into hardcore and got you into music, like that stuck with you the most?
It's funny because I definitely, that was more the world that I was, more world of music that I was listening to. It was mostly like old Face Down bands and old Victory bands. When I was in middle school,
Nice.
Call to Preserve was a big one for me in middle school because my parents would let me listen to heavier music if it was like Christian. So like, that was a thing. But like the bands that like really like looking back on it like really influenced me in like gravitating towards music, like Jimmy Eat World was the first band that I ever like distinctly remember a song by where I was like, I like this because I heard this, not because my parents showed this to me. Like I heard the middle on the radio and was like, this is it.
That's awesome.
And like I don't know what it was, like 15 years after that song came out, I like sat down one day and I was like, I should like really listen to this band. And they're my favorite band. Like point blank, which is really funny because I don't really listen to like any like pop punk stuff for the most part.
Sure.
But they're hands down my favorite band. But yeah,
cool.
that was like I don't know. It was like that early 2000s pop punk. So like them and Yellow Card was another big one for me. Taking Back Sunday. And then just like a bunch of hardcore bands that nobody gave a shit about then and nobody gives a shit about now.
I don't know.
Sleeping Giant was a big one for me back then because of the whole Christian thing and that.
Those guys slayed live, man.
Oh, they were so good.
They were so good. I'm very familiar with the Face Down scene and all those bands, man. I mean, maybe not those bands of like older bands of the older in the scene, but yeah. Yeah. Sleeping Giant slayed. That's cool. Was there a point there where you started to learn to play an instrument or guitar or sing?
Well, I mean, it's weird. I've been like, I was one of those people that like the second I could make sounds, I was doing it. Like I remember when I was like 3 or 4, I would like, mind you, these are like hazy memories because I was like 3 or 4. But
yeah.
I would like take like bowls, like plastic bowls, and like drum on them along to like Backstreet Boy songs for my family as like a concert. I can't remember a time where I didn't sing or at least try to. I wasn't any good until I still don't really know how that I'm really all that good at it, but I wasn't any good at all until like high school. But
yeah,
I don't know. Guitar's another one like that where it's like my dad bought me an acoustic guitar when I was like 6, and like I didn't know how to play it at all. I would just kind of bang on it and make noise.
Yeah.
But then when I was, I don't know, I think 11 or 12, I for whatever reason just decided to go for it. And like one of my friends that I went to school with like wrote down on a piece of paper like, this is how you play the riff to Smoke on the Water and the riff to what song is it?
Iron Man or something like that.
Iron Man. And I remember like I got those down, and after that that was it. And I
That's awesome.
Figured it out.
When did you start playing in bands?
I started putting bands together with friends and writing songs, but not playing shows in middle school. I played my first show, I think my junior year of high school, in this like shitty metalcore band it's funny. One of my friends like unironically loves it. And we like an EP, not on streaming services. And every once in a while they'll just like text me about it. it's really funny. Like I haven't played any of those songs in like 6 or 7 years. I haven't thought about it.
Yeah.
And they'll like text, this one person will text me about it. Like, this reminds me, I'm like, you're the only person that ever cared. And definitely the only person that still cares.
That's
I started touring when I was 19.
Oh, wow.
So 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Which was definitely interesting. Like I went to college for a semester. I took a semester off, went to college for a semester, had gotten a pretty weird car accident and decided to take a semester off, and then got an offer to be in a band that was touring. And I was like, I mean, I didn't really want to go to school that bad anyway. I was just like, I didn't really see the point in going to school for like a general degree, and instead of like touring all the time and losing every tiny bit of money that I ever had for years.
Yeah. Was that any band of note that you were touring with, or?
I was in a band. I was in another band from like this side of like I guess you would say like DIY scene. I was in a band called Everyone Leaves.
I can't believe I've never seen you again. I only wish I had a chance to say goodbye. More than a few short moments where the stairs in the space beneath my ribs. I don't think I can show the way.
A little over 4 years. I learned an awful lot about that, about everything through that.
Yeah, the Great and Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That EP was so weird for me specifically, because I joined the band like a week before studio dates.
Oh man.
And I joined as a third guitar player in a band that just wrote a record with 2 guitar parts. And I was like, okay, I'll just double, and I won't track. I'll learn these songs later. If you want me to sing anything, I'll sing, but that's fine. And our vocalist was like, no, we want a third guitar player to play third guitar. And I was like, oh. So I wrote all of my parts to that record, I swear to God, in like a week. And most of them are the most useless. The songs could go on without me and everything would be totally fine.
Just basic background.
Oh yeah, it's like single note, just like single note stuff that's like not a lead, like an actual lead.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time I was in that band, I actually had a pretty big hand in the songwriting. So it was a fun time. I like this more. I think that band had too many cooks in the kitchen sometimes. Yeah. And but like the idea of like 3 guitars and like these like really expansive instrumentals, definitely, I mean, that it was a huge influence on it for sure.
Yeah.
On like what I'm doing now. I think now it's a little more cohesive. Because like I'm obviously not fighting for the spotlight with myself.
Yeah.
I feel like there's maybe a little bit of that at times with that band, but yeah, that was my my introduction to the touring world. And I'm like, God, like we did I think 12 tours or something.
Wow.
Like that in like 3 years.
That's
it was
crazy.
Or 13 or something. Yeah, it was. And when we weren't touring, it was like every other weekend we were playing something. And it was, hard to keep a job. We were all like kind of like cutting our teeth on it. But I mean, it's interesting because when the band broke up, it was just me, our bassist Aubrey, and our vocalist Jake. And Jake actually is like a booking assistant for like a really big booking agent in our world. And Aubrey's in Save Face and like Jetty Bones part-time. Oh,
nice.
And I'm doing this. So like we all like very much went our separate ways, and like live in different states, and Jacob's in California now. So, but like every once in a while we'll all hit each other up. I feel like we all hear each other, like Aubrey and I hear each other's music.
Yeah.
before it's out all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no better time to like just tour and be broke than when you're 19, 20 and just like do it.
Well, that was the thing. Like RB was 18 and I was 19 when we started actively touring.
Yeah.
And like Jacob and like a couple older members that weren't in the picture for much longer than that, than like that first year, were older. But RB and I, like, that's like we went to school and then we did this. Like that's all we really ever knew. I think like maybe like for like Jacob, who like has a degree and like went through college and did all that, like, I mean, I can't like speak to their experience, and I wouldn't try with quarantine, and I wouldn't try to, but like I would imagine that like this year's been really probably weirder for RB and I.
Yeah.
Because especially them, like they're on the road constantly. And like I was feeling like Overgrow wasn't touring enough for a while honestly, like and Overgrow's like, it's like 3 or 4 tours a year. Like it's, and when I'm not touring, I'm writing. Like there's no breaks for the most part. And it's just like, this is the longest I've been without playing a show. And since I think since I was like 16 years old.
Wow. Yeah.
So
yeah. It really took the music industry and smacked it around.
Well, that's the thing that's funny is like, I'm interested to see what comes out of this, because I like for myself, like this EP that's coming out, Hear Your Voice Again, we were in the middle of recording it when everything went on lockdown.
Yeah.
I think we had like 7 more studio dates left to finish the record. I had done like a couple, like I'd Hang Over Me, and then there were a couple songs that I'd done earlier, or like just over time, because the guy that I record with for everything, his name's Will, and he actually only lives like 20 minutes away from me.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'll just like, it'll be this thing where it's like, I have an idea. I don't know what this is going towards, but we're just going to record this thing. When are you free? And he'll be like, I have like 2 days in 3 weeks or something like that. I'd be like, that's me. And just like go. So there was some things like that already for the record, but we had like 7 days left that like, I was like, this is my deadline. I don't like that the record's not done. So like it will be done on this day. And we had like 2 or 3 days left in the studio. And, we all like looked at our phones, and I think it was the day Hang Over Me came out too, which was just like how the world has to work all the time.
Yeah.
Like all of the 300 and this year was a leap year, right?
Yeah.
So we even had the extra day this year.
Extra day. Yeah.
And like the odds of it being like release day, that the world like has a pandemic for the first time in 100 years.
Right.
Was like the weirdest thing. And like, I didn't care. Nobody cared about, like, obviously, because there's much bigger shit to worry about at that moment in time. But like, I remember we were like, okay. And like, I don't drink or smoke or anything, but our producer and my girlfriend also does like photography for Overgrow and actually does quite a bit behind the scenes. But she was in the studio because the label wanted pictures from there. So the 3 of us went to go get tacos, and the 2 of them just got absolutely shit-faced.
Oh no.
It was like we don't know if there's ever going to be a chance that we can do this again.
Right.
So that day at the studio was definitely like, I think after that, like that was lunch and we ended at 6. And I think we probably tracked like the rest of a verse that day. But yeah, we wound up, like all the lockdowns and everything started getting announced and everything. And
Ohio was pretty early in that. So.
Yeah, Ohio was super early for the U.S., which I mean, I was very excited about, honestly. Like, our numbers were really good for a second there, and then the rest of our governor was trying. In his defense, not a hugest fan of him as a whole, but in that regard, he was really trying, but the rest of our government was like, God made you with a face so people could see it. And we got some weird shit started happening. And apparently a hot spot. I don't know. I stay in my house, so
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Philly was good. It's like things get good, and then people. Anyway, we don't need to get into all that shit.
Right.
Like we go on forever about how terrible it is. So after everyone leaves, that's when you started Overgrow.
Yeah, I mean, Overgrow had been so one of the things that I kind of started banging my head against the wall to put it bluntly, with Everyone Leaves, was that that was a band that I didn't create the sound for. That was a band that wasn't my band.
Yeah.
That I was writing for, and because of that, there were a lot of ideas that I had, especially earlier on, that were just shot down because they didn't work. I was like, but these are great songs. Like, I love these songs. So I started Overgrow as like a solo thing that I pretty much had the whole time I was in Everyone Leaves, but it wasn't ever serious. There was no recordings. I tried a couple times, but I think only one of them ever came out and I took it down. Like, it was very much like I would open up my friends' shows and play these songs that weren't Everyone Leaves songs under the name Overgrow.
Yeah.
It was by myself. And then the end of 2017 was just like 2017. In my life was way worse than 2020 ever could be. And it started with like one lost a friend or a coworker that I was friends with in a pretty gruesome, horrific way. Like, that was like how I started my year. And I ended the year with like my dad passed and the band broke up. And the band, like I said, like the band was all I'd known.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what do I do now? And I wound up writing what would become The House You Made.
And I've been spending my time reminiscing, and it's keeping me awake at night. And every aching moment keeps me thinking, did my wrongs outweigh the things that I got right? I'm spending tired and secluded in depression, and I learned to keep my bottle up tight. So I sit quiet as the papers out like water, and maybe I learned the truth just right. So the people in this house sleep through the night, but the void will only keep getting deeper, and the sun shines through these.
Like, it was never like a thing where I was like, I'm going to make this record and I have this goal. It was like, no, I just wound up having these songs and went and recorded them and put them out. And I was like, maybe someone will care. Maybe someone will give a shit. So like, to me, that was that decision in like late 2017 of like, I know I have one more tour with the band that I've spent the years where everyone in the industry for the most part is like looking for you.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I feel like 18 to 22 is like you're popping now. And I was like just turned 22 and I was like, oh, well, now I'm starting over again.
Yeah.
And I had this record, and I was like, well, we'll record it. We'll see what happens. And because like I needed to make it just for me. And in some of the songs, I was like, originally it was gonna be a solo record, and I started demoing it out, and I was like, these are full band songs. These are songs these are loud. And I still to this day, like, besides one song off the new EP, and I think two off the one before, off the Name We Share, that is still the loudest release I've ever made, which, yeah. So I was like, these songs are loud. These songs are like very in your face. And so I was like, but I'm not going to play them that way. Like, I'm not going to, like, I don't want to have a band. I don't have to buy a van. I don't want to do any of those things. Like, I'm going to buy merch. I'm going to play solo, and hopefully no one thinks it's too weird. Did like a weekender that way. And then the release show, I was like, well, wouldn't it be cool if I like got some friends to play with me like once, just to like play the songs they are on the record. And I remember like walking off that night, and I was like, that was sick. Like, I don't care how much of a headache this is. That's what this is.
That's how we're going to do it. Yeah.
And like, to me, like, in all honesty, like the moment that the house you made was done and like sent off to get mixed and mastered, and like early 2018 was like really when I think this started. So the long short of it, regardless of whether or not the name was around and I was playing shows, like it was a very, very different thing. Like, I was playing super flashy, noodly, like emo twinkly riffs, and just like shredding and singing by myself on stage, like and about ex-girlfriends that didn't deserve to have songs written about them.
It's always the case.
Yeah. Didn't. Yeah. And I'm glad those songs don't exist on the internet, because people grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very, like, literal only, there's 2 songs off the first EP that existed in those days. Both of them got a pretty heavy facelift. But for the most part, it was like, like I flipped a switch, and this was now the focus, and it was a band, and it was all of this.
That's awesome. How'd you get connected with Common Ground?
They reached out. I honestly have no idea.
Okay. Awesome.
The extent of it that I do know, the house you made had been out for like 2 months, and like, I don't know how in the fuck they found me, because on it, like, I had like 200, like, I don't even think I had 200 monthly listeners on Spotify. I hadn't gone on tour yet. I did like a acoustic weekend run. And like, all of a sudden I'm like driving home from work, and I'm about to get in my car, and I look at my email, and there's this email from Common Ground Records, because at the time they were Common Ground Records.
Yeah.
And I was like, I feel like this is a scam. Like, I feel like this isn't, like, this can't be a real label reaching out to me right now. There's no, like, why would they?
Right. Yeah.
And it turned out that, like, I looked at their roster, and and like, honestly, like, them having Glacier Veins was all I needed to see, because I had met them on the last Everyone Leaves tour, and like, was like, oh, like, I know these people. Like, yeah. If they're on here, I mean, I'm sure that it's worth checking out. And apparently Jacob from Everyone Leaves was booking a tour used to book for this band Common Weather that I love dearly, and a couple of them play with Overgrow from time to time. And Jacob was booking for them and booked this tour, and was like, I can't find anyone to open it. Do you just want to do it? And I was like, I mean, I won't say no to you booking me a tour. Like, that's, yeah. And I mean, this was before I had an agent and anything. And apparently they found me because they knew Common Weather, who was at that time was also a tiny little band.
Yeah.
Those people are just so plugged in. It's stupid in ways that I don't understand. And, but yeah, they were like, what do you have next? And like, what's going on? And I was like, well, I'm already on the next thing. Like, I had the idea for the Name We Share after playing the release show for the house you made, like literally that same night.
Wow.
Had this idea of like, I hate that people have already started saying that this is a record for and about my dad, because it's not. There's a couple songs on there that are, but it's not what it is. like the couple outlets I had managed to scrounge together for myself. That sounds like I was ungrateful. I'm very grateful for what we got. We actually got some pretty cool stuff, but I like worked my ass off and got a couple outlets to cover the singles the first time around. And like, it was like the one recurring thing was like, this record's for his dad. And I was like, I didn't say that. I remember like it really bothered me because like that wouldn't be how I would have done it. Yeah. So I was like that night I was like, I had the title for the record. I didn't have a single song written, and I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to write this one long continuous piece of music, and it's going to be called The Name We Share, and it's actually going to be a record for and about my dad. And just did it. So I had 1289 tracked, and was actually planning on putting that out as a standalone single. And so I was like already in mixing for it, and I sent them it, and I was like, this is the song. I have a new song. And they were like, already? They were like, we were thinking about re-releasing the thing you just did. And at first I was like, I stomped my feet, and I was like, nah, like I don't want to do that. Like that, I don't want to. To me, it felt like like in the back of my head, I was like, this is a waste of time. I don't think this is the right thing to do. And then I was like, you know what? These people do this.
Yeah.
And maybe my own ego's in the way a little bit. And I was like, okay, compromise. We can re-release it, but can I still put out EP2 in the spring of next year? And they're like, yeah, we don't fucking care. We just want to.
That's great.
This one. And I was like, okay, cool. We'll do that. That does no harm, no foul. So we did that, and like I remember like landed some crazy playlist when we announced The House You Made, and like I've never in my life had that many people listening to anything I made, and I was like, okay, they were right. Gotcha.
It's a good EP, so
thank you. I'm really interested to see how people that like really like that EP feel about the one that's going to come out. The one that's like on its way.
Yeah.
Because like with The Name We Share, it's not a 90-degree turn at all. It's like very much like this is where it was going. But if you take that out, which I feel like when The Name We Share was out, we immediately hardly touched The House You Made live ever anymore. It was like No Rain got played the last time like release week at Bloodfest. And then we played 51 hung around for a bit. It was like 51 in The House You Made. And then I recorded Hang Over Me and got impatient and was like, we're just going to play this fucking song because it's sick. And and so we started playing Hang Over Me like 6 months before it came out. Yeah, it was just like The House You Made went away really fast. Yeah. And there were definitely like a group of people that would like I don't mean this to say like we have a ton of people like coming out directly for Overgrow, because I'm very thankful for the people that do, but it's like this project isn't popping like that. Where
yeah,
there's
sure.
like what I found that's really cool is there's like a few diehards that like really love it, which gives me a lot of hope for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So like there were people that were like, why don't you play this song? And my excuse was always, well, the band doesn't know it, because they didn't, because it's like a rotating group of people. And then I was like, well, fuck, if people keep asking. And then I started playing, like if that happened, I would play that song by myself after the set was over. And I remember like, that was kind of one of the things I got hung up on the most with writing this record was like, I was like, I don't want to alienate those like people that like The House You Made. But then I like sat down and I started writing it, and I was like I stopped kind of like getting in my own way. And I was like, I'm just going to make the record I want to listen to. and I frankly don't really like the sound of that record as much as what's going on now. And I was like, I'm just going to make shit and do what we did the first time and not have this like massive plan. And I am so proud of what Will and I were able to make in the studio. But it is a bit different. I mean, I think Broken Things is definitely the left turn of the record. There's songs that are more what you expect, but like I'm not screaming on it at all. Yeah. There's like a song where I sing high out of 7. And I'm just, it's a lot more like comfort zone for me and like what I like listening to. And yeah, the House You Made is, I keep going back and forth because I'm so proud of this record, but there's a part of me that doesn't ever want to leave at least the song, The House You Made, and just let it exist on the record and just like leave it be. So we'll see what happens, but
yeah, The House You Made is definitely like this angsty, aggressive.
Yeah, it's loud
record. Like it's loud, and yeah, Broken Things is such like this great pop rock like song. Like it's super rad.
I was so scared. I was so scared. Like, and it was one of these, like, I remember the demo for that song, and all of the samples we added in the studio, those are almost, I would say like 90 to 95% Will. Those samples are his like real big contribution as a producer. So I had this demo, and it was this like song that like it felt happy. And I was like, what do I do with this? And I remember driving around like listening to the demos, because like there was this weird point with Hear Your Voice Again where I had like 3 or 4 instrumentals with no vocals, which usually my brain doesn't work like that. Like usually I need to finish a song before I can move on to the next thing. And it's like there's a song called Say Nothing, and Broken Things specifically happened at the same time, and neither of them had vocals. And I remember driving around listening to demos, and like I was just like, I had this moment of like, this is either going to be the best thing I've ever done and people are going to freak out, or this is going to be the biggest mistake I've ever made. Like there's no between, and I remember like it was the only song in the studio where Will and his initial reaction was like, this is a cool song. Like, you know, like how like when your friend's trying to like not like let you down easy about like a thing that like, you really like. He was like, it's cool. I just like, it's not really doing as much. And like we left the studio that day, and he was like, he had like come around to it a little bit, but I remember like that initial reaction, and I was like, oh, all right. And in my head, it was like, okay, well, we're going to single Say Nothing and put the record out like 2 weeks later. And I was like, I hadn't talked to the label. They had no idea that was what I wanted to do, and still don't. But I was like, we're just going to single Say Nothing, and maybe there's the first song on the record we played a couple times. It's a song called New Light. It's like the only song on the record that kind of sounds like old Overgrow. Yeah. Like really. And we played that one when on the shows with Bill Murray this year. And I was like, oh, those are the singles. If we're just going to bury Broken Things in the track list because I love it, but I don't think anyone else really feels that way. And I sent the record to some friends, and it was like, no, like it was a weird time to be sending your record around to your friends, and I didn't think about that. And I took it super personally that no one was responding to me. And I was like, they hate it. This is it. I'm done. And then the label hit me back and was like, Broken Things is the song. And I was like, fuck. and then there was like this month where Will had been super busy with studio stuff, but we kind of waited a little bit on getting mixes back. Usually he's like the fastest person I've ever met turning a mix around, but he had a bunch of clients, and I wound up getting like a first mix back for the record like a month and a half later. And I remember just like sitting down and listening to it, and I'm like, Broken Things is the song for sure. And ever since it was that. It's such a weird, I feel like it's the closest I'll ever get to writing a pop song.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, because I would have never thought I would have ever written that song.
You don't think Hang Over Me is a pop song?
Let me prove to you I could be so alone around everyone else. Losing all my teeth now, watch me lose myself. I'll be something else if that's what you need of me. I'll be everything that I need. Feels so far away.
No,
Okay.
Hang Over Me is like really dark in my head. Like it's a little like flow, like there's a lot of air in it. It's very like, but especially like playing that song live, that low end is beefy
Sure.
in that song. And,
Sure.
and it's especially that like last section's like one of the heaviest parts of the set. And I don't know. I mean, it's closer. Those are definitely the two like that on the record. And
Because Spotify plays them back to back, and you're like, yeah, it's the same band. Like, it's not like this drastic change. So.
Well, the thing that I'm really stoked on is I got really anxious about like literally like this last weekend about like people are gonna hate this thing. It's so different. And like Broken Things came out, and I was like, I just for my own sanity need to listen to everything I've done in order and try to be objective. And I listened to the first two EPs and then this one, and it makes sense. Like these two songs are definitely the wild cards. Oh, there's a song called Spin that's like actually like an acoustic love song.
Yeah.
That's probably the wild card on the record. But the rest of it, I feel like, is very like, yeah, this is where this is going. And like in the case of New Light, it's like there's some samples. It's beyond that, it could have fit on either of the two before it. And yeah, I mean, like it was just one of those moments where I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm definitely just psyching myself out about this thing. And it's because I love it. Like, it's the, I don't know. I don't think I've ever actually genuinely liked an album I've been a part of this much, or liked a release I've been a part of this much, where like I listen to this thing all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And I've never had that before. With any, like Everyone Leaves, my old shitty local bands, or the two Overgrow EPs. Like I've never felt that way about something I've made before, except for this record. So like I really just want people to like it and hope that no one's mad at Broken Things, because the next two singles are a little bit more like comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think specifically the next one is going to be like a relief if anyone is feeling like he's making a pop album. I'm not. That's not what happened. It's just I didn't want to write another miserable, like another album about just being sad.
Yeah.
I wanted to write an album about getting better, and I wanted to write an album about like that, like sounded like that.
Yeah.
And like I didn't want to reuse the same chord progression that I used for most of the first two records. And yeah, I mean, it was just like trying new things. And I wrote this thing stupid fast.
Yeah.
It was like there were the New Light, Spin, and Hang Over Me existed for a while. And then I booked studio dates without having the other four songs written. Because I was like, fuck it, I'm giving myself a deadline because obviously I'm just not working, and that's all that it is. And then a month, where I'm like a month away from the first day in studio, I'm like, I should write some songs. And the other 4 just kind of like happened. And I still don't like the vocals at the end of Say Nothing. I wrote in Will's driveway the day we recorded it. The vocals for the whole title track I wrote, besides the first verse, I wrote on the last day of studio.
Oh, wow.
Like this thing happened really, really, really fast. And it's so weird because I usually come in over prepared. I feel like I really didn't. Like I came in just prepared enough every time. And I think it, in a weird way, benefited from me not overthinking.
Yeah, it gives you a fresh perspective, so it sounds newer to you and not something you've been sitting on forever.
Yeah, and I didn't. The way I usually write, I demo the instrumental and then I'll write vocals, like either like driving around in my car, just like scatting and humming some shit until some words pop out.
Yeah.
Or I'll like really sit down and just listen to that demo. And a lot of times I find myself getting like the whole like demo-itis thing where it's like, I love this demo. I love how this demo sounds. And then it was weird because I didn't have that this time because like the song Hear Your Voice Again didn't exist like at all a week before we went into studio. So like there wasn't really time to get precious about anything.
Yeah.
And it was just this like, what this is going to be is what it's going to be, which is, I haven't done that in the songs I've written since. And I hope to never do that again because it was one of the most stressful things I've ever done in my entire life.
That's funny.
It's one thing to give yourself a deadline way in the future and like work gradually towards that deadline. Yeah. It's another thing to like wait until the last minute and go, well, I hope it went well. Like, cause I don't think I'm going to get this lucky again. Like there's no way.
Yeah.
Like, thank God I had like an actual vision for this record set in stone before I had to write those last 4 songs. Cause I don't know that it would have happened.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't know what this was going to be and was just like, pull songs out of my ass. Like what am I going to write about? I don't think it would have happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can't wait for people to hear it. It's like all I think about right now, which is I haven't felt that way about a release since I think I was like in high school.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's there are songs on it that I don't believe I wrote. Just don't. And I think people are gonna like it. I hope people are gonna like it.
Yeah, I've not heard the whole record, but I think both singles are excellent. And Hear Your Voice Again, December 4th on Common Ground. How are you preparing for this release in COVID? There's no shows, no touring. What's your thoughts for the release of this thing?
Get it out. I'm not in a position where like we care about first week sales like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about this release and what I'm doing in 2021 as what is the smartest way to navigate this shitty situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I already have 2 new songs that are done, that we finished before the video for Broken Things came out.
Oh man.
So right now I'm focused on writing for 2021. I don't think there's going to be like a record in 2021 because I think the next record is a full length. I think that's going to come 2022. But my plan is to just make a bunch of songs and find creative ways to put them out. So there will be stuff coming next year. There will be new songs coming next year. But I'm just kind of waiting for that full length until there's like an ideal time without like just wasting time in my head. So the EP, really put my foot down. The label wanted to put it out in February. And I was like, I can't stand the idea that there's a song on this record that will be a year and a half old by the time it comes out.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I've been tweeting on my personal, like, fucking crazy this whole year about this stupid album.
We got to get it to the people.
And I was like, and I don't want to be that guy that's just like, soon. And then it just doesn't happen. So I was like, I really want it to come out this year, like really want it to. And you're like, well, we don't want to drop it around the election because it's going to be
just swallowed up.
Any possible outcome of this election is a shit show. There's no situation where there's not something that we're all just like screaming about.
Right.
So we were all like, okay, well, we want to avoid that. The Thanksgiving is usually just in general a time where you don't do anything, and the holidays suck. And I was like, and they were like, how do you feel about December? And I was like, I've always heard that you avoid December and January like the plague when it comes to releasing music, but like it's 2020, fuck it.
Right.
Like there's no rules this year. If y'all are comfortable with December, let's do December. Like this, I don't feel like this band's ever had or this project has ever had like a holy shit moment. It's always been pretty gradual. And I was like, I'm not so precious about the thought of like blowing this record up because we already have new stuff coming. Like the record, if we just give it to people and it exists, eventually people will find it and love it. And I firmly believe that. Like this is, like I said, like I've never felt this way about a record before.
Yeah.
So it was just like, I mean, worst case, it comes out in December and doesn't make people's year-end lists.
Like, because they'll be out already, right? Like Pitchfork is like mid-November, some stupid shit like that, right?
So the whole plan was let's get Broken Things out as fast as possible.
Yeah, get it in people's ears, yeah.
And then two month hype cycle on it, and hopefully people wait to form their opinions about the year and talk about it and pay attention to it, and like at the end of the day though, it doesn't really matter because I genuinely think that this is like once it's out and people will like it when they like it.
Yeah, like
they'll find it. I have no plans of being like stopping doing anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to put out, without giving too much of what I want to do next year out there, I want to find a way to like build a community thing. Not build like for like on like a very small scale, like find a way to make something that like kind of feels like a tour, but isn't a show.
Yeah.
And my goal is I want to have 6 songs out next year. 6 new songs that are still new. The whole thought behind it is you only get one LP1. And if I can knock out these 6 new songs by the end of the year and get these 6 new songs tracked and we just sit on them and we put them out when it makes sense with the plans that we have in motion, let's do that. And then I have all of next year to make that record and there's no pressure. And it's like I have this whole time to sit down and like cherry pick my best ideas.
Yeah.
Instead of shit, we need a record. So that's kind of where we're at. A bit like, yeah, the 2 songs that Hear Your Voice Again is my favorite thing I've made to date. And then these 2 songs, I think for my own, they're weird, but for my own personal taste, I like them more. And that's kind of like a really weird feeling that like you want your release that's coming out to be your favorite thing. And from what everyone's heard, this is my favorite thing, but it's now not my favorite thing that we've made that I have.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And I I think that's kind of like part of the idea why we were just like, fuck it, December. Like, let's put it out in December. Was like, worst case, people view it as a 2019 record and don't really listen to it for that long. But then we can put songs out in a couple months.
Yeah.
And who cares?
Yeah.
And they'll come around to the songs one way or another, and it's fine. Who cares? Like, there's no, in my mind, there's no reason to not be working on music right now in some way. And there's no reason to not, I mean, like, if you have the ability to do it, to just make shit, this is the perfect time to make things and stock up on your catalog and just flood everything.
Yeah.
When the time comes. And yeah, and that's kind of like where my head's been at. Like, I definitely went through those like first few months of like, I'm not writing shit because I can't tour it. I have a record. We're just sitting on it because we can't shoot a music video right now. And we can't do anything. Like, there's no, so like, why would I work? And it was,
right.
and then like a few months went by and I was like, man, this is a really bad way of looking at the situation. and it, like, all before we knew it, it's August or coming up on August, and we don't have music videos for this record besides Hang Over Me. And I don't have anything for 2021, which for me, like, I need that structure of like a long-term plan. Otherwise I won't do anything.
Yeah.
So I had this moment of like, well, this sucks. Like, this is not, obviously 2020 is not the year that any of us wanted, but like, I don't have to, like, there's a lot of things where we're all victims of circumstance right now. But like, the ability to create songs for me specifically isn't one of those things. So like, let's make art. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like, let's make songs for people, and hopefully people find time to pause from everything and listen to something. And if they choose that something to be what I have, then I love that. But if like, I don't want to let this project become like, kind of like fall prey to the idea of like, can't play a show, can't make music.
Right.
Which, like, it hurts me to think that we can't play a release show for this record.
Yeah.
Up to date, there's no Overgrow song that hasn't been played live in some way. So like, the fact that like, there's a couple songs on this record that probably will never get played live now. Because like, I personally don't see shows coming back until late next year at the earliest.
Yeah, at best. Yeah.
And like, I mean, like, I think like small, like 100 cap more like DIY shows will come back first, because I think they'll be safe to happen first. It'll be like safer to dip our toes in with less than 100 people than with like these big high cap rooms. Obviously this all depends on a vaccine, and I'm not going to play anything until it's not going to be a danger to the people coming to the show. I've like toyed around with the idea of like live streams, but like, also like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a thing that costs a lot of money to do. And the people that can do it and that do that right now, absolutely most props to them. But like, I want to find a way to do it that's good, but also not going to completely break the bank, because I would rather make more songs.
Right.
And just keep having stuff happen, than make a live stream that people may or may not know exists, because there's so much shit happening all the time right now. And the world is a fucking mess. And, yeah, I just don't want to let the project fall victim to 2020 in the creative aspect. Like, I don't want to let like using as a creative outlet not happen this year because I can't play shows.
Right. You just let it fall to the wayside, and then it dies.
If that's the thing is, like, I get it for bigger bands, like and artists that have like real massive budgets on their and a lot riding on their records. I totally get waiting. To a degree. But like, I don't really have that. Like, and because of that, like, I'm okay with taking a little bit of an L right now if it means that I can keep making things and keep giving people like a distraction from the bullshit that's happening. And finding productive ways to spend my time. Because the potential loss for me isn't as great in my current situation. So like, why not? And I mean, that's kind of where my head's been at with COVID and with 2020 and 2021. And I fucking hope we get a show next year.
Yeah, for real.
I want to be in a room with people.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our theme song was written and composed by the legendary Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe on iTunes and give the show a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, click on the Patreon link at asthestorygrows.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.